Let's look at two-hand lapel grabs now. One of the very most common street situations, and a lot more difficult to deal with than most people would have you believe. If you're having problems with one-hand lapel grabs, now you've got double the problems. Twice as much leverage, pull them into a knee, can be really problematic. Once again, the main difference between how this is usually taught in a self-defense setting in the real world is the kind of pressure the person's putting on you. If he stands here and doesn't do anything, looks like I have all the time and space in the world. I can do whatever I like. I can pinch him and make him let go. You know, I can pull his hairs out one at a time because there's so much time and space. But in reality, he's going to be moving me around. Once I become destabilized, it makes it really difficult to do most techniques. As far as hitting the guy goes from these situations, which is one of the most common things people advocate you doing, it's really, really difficult. Particularly if he's 50, 60, 80 pounds heavier than me. When he starts destabilizing me, it's going to be difficult for me to get off any kind of shot, and I'm certainly not going to be able to knee him in the groin, because as soon as I pick up one of my legs, he's going to put me on the ground, and then I'm in a worse situation. Is it possible to hit the guy? Sure. Maybe I get lucky and take him out. But good self-defense isn't based on luck. It's about playing the percentages. And I'm going to show you some of the highest percentage escapes that I've developed and come across in all my years in the martial arts. So let's look at the pressure. Basically, it's going to be pulling, or it's going to be pushing. Let's begin with the pushing scenario. As he pushes on me, the number one thing I have to worry about is keeping my balance. If I don't, I'm going to hit the ground and I'm in a different scenario. If I want to be able to defend myself standing and avoid a ground fight, then keeping my feet on the ground, lowering my center of gravity, and keeping good posture is number one. As he pushes on me, his arms start to straighten out and he's pushing into me. This gives me a good opportunity to go under that arm. This is my personal favorite one, and I think the best use of leverage. What's happening here is my head is making his wrist bend. And no matter how hard he holds on, he's going to have to break that grip. So this one isn't commonly taught in most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu self-defense curriculums. I don't know why. Personally, it's my favorite, and I've used it many times in real self-defense situations. Unlike a lot of the other ones that are more standard in the curriculums, I never felt secure actually doing them, even though I may have practiced some of them for longer periods of time. So as he pushes into me, his arms are going to straighten. This creates a gap between us. If I'm worried about catching a knee, which again is a theoretical problem because if he doesn't know what you're doing, there's not going to be enough time for him to figure out that you're putting your head down. But if you are worried about that, you just have your hands here. Also, try to do it by bending your legs like we talked about, by a level change. Not by putting my head down. Now the problem with this isn't the knee initially, it's the fact that I'm off balance. He starts shaking me around. I may not be able to lift my head up because I've broken my own posture. Then I can eat the knee. So it's important to make the transition through a leg bend or a level change. Now when you have somebody your own size, it may look like there's a long way to go, but I designed this one against big, huge guys that outweighed me by a lot and had big, long arms. Basically the angle is more like this. It's a lot easier to get your head under. Let's look at the mechanics again. Now look where my head is. I want to make sure I suck it back as far as I can. I want it right against his wrist. Hold tight. It's nearly impossible for the guy to hold on. And when you're wearing a gi or something rough, be careful because it rips his fingers right off the material and you can end up cutting up your own hands depending how rough the material of what you're wearing is. So this is a beautiful example of leverage applied. No matter how strong the guy is, I'm not fighting with his big, huge arm. I don't even want to fight with his forearm. I want to reduce the fight to just his wrist. So it may be hard to see on camera, but what's happening here is his wrist is bending. Hold tight. What this does is lines up my head with his wrist. It's important that I suck my head back as far as I can, so I'm getting his wrist to bend. If I'm further up on the forearm, it can work. And in fact, sometimes people let go because when I'm doing it this way, it tends to lock out the elbow and make it painful. But what I want to do is reduce the leverage to the weakest point, which is at his wrist. So when I go under, this now breaks his joint alignment and puts his arm in a natural position. Are you holding tight on that hand? Hold tight now. It's almost impossible to hold on, isn't it? There's the most efficient one that I know of. All right, in this scenario, we're looking at the pull now. He curls me in. Same idea here. A lot of real self-defense is just about breaking the grips. I'm not talking about finishes yet. We're not talking about taking the guy down. We're looking at efficient ways to make him let go. That's always your first line of defense. Again, maybe you're in the bar or a social scene. You don't want the cameras picking up on you. You don't want to get kicked out. You just want the guy to let go and leave you alone. When he curls you in, a really simple way is to use one of the classical chokes. I'm going to stick my hands in his collar and I'm going to use my knuckles to put pressure on his windpipe like this. Let go, buddy. There you see it. Now this is known as the knuckle choke. Gene LaBelle refers to it as the double bear claw. It's a classic jiu-jitsu choke. It's not used that much in gi training, or excuse me, mat training, because it's fairly easy to defend. But the benefit of its simplicity is that when the guy grabs me, it allows me to bring my arms around his. Unlike the other chokes, I may not be able to get my hands in his collar. There's a lot of problems with that, although they're possible. But this one's tailor-made for the situation. No matter how big his shoulders are, no matter how big his arms are, I should be able to fit them around the outside. And all I need is a basic collar. The only problem people have with this choke is they tend to choke too shallow, meaning their hands are here in the front of the collar. It takes a lot of strength. You can see, even when I'm pushing hard, my knuckles are nowhere near his neck. I need to grab pretty far back, at least halfway, maybe 3/4 back, so that my two big knuckles are lining up with his carotid arteries. I could even stand and be slightly farther back, but they're still lining up basically with his earlobes. When I push in and flex my wrists, I'm cutting off his carotid arteries, and sometimes my thumb is closing his windpipe at the same time. Yes, you can choke the guy standing, but you're probably going to have to push him into a wall or something. I use this primarily not as a finish, but a way to make the guy let go. If we do want to finish him, we just need to get some, so he curls me in, we just need to get some support behind us. So once I start this, and he's thinking about being choked, it's going to be a lot easier to move. I can stick him into a hard surface like a wall or a car, and now I have enough pressure to choke him unconscious if I keep the choke on, because his body can't go anywhere. But as I said, there's more efficient ways to choke a person down. Putting him down on the ground is always your best choice as a jiu-jitsu guy, if that's tactically viable. But as a release, this is my personal favorite one.